Hello everyone, it is Liv here, aka Story Minded, and I'm on to the next video. This is for True Stories module, True Stories assignment 2, and I'll also mention briefly that was an interesting combination of vowels then. True Stories assignment 3, which we had to do a 750, kind of like a mini reflective essay, a bit like a critical commentary if any of you have ever had the opportunity to study creative writing, where you sort of have to delve into your creative writing process. And that reminds me, I haven't looked up the question for that, so I'll probably have to try and pause the video, hope it doesn't like cut me off, and then I'll be able to find the question, because I've completely forgotten what the question was. We could pick, I think it was out of like three questions or something like that. But anyway, so for the second assignment for this module, the previous one was the big poetry portfolio where we had to write 5 personal poems. This one we had the choice of either writing a 1,500 long short story, or we could break that down into like 500 words each. I opted for breaking my stories down into 500 words each, and I wanted to sort of explore my dad again. I wanted to explore his Alzheimer's more, and I've probably mentioned in previous videos before, but I've always struggled to try and write it authentically. I've always felt like whenever I try to write it, it just feels so forced and fake. I guess because it's such a personal, dark moment in my life that it's really hard to try and like give that authenticity to, and like try and express how much it kind of impacts you. So the kind of angle I went for these 3 short stories, and I was really happy with how they turned out in the end. And once again, I don't know any of all these ones that I'm talking about. I don't know any of my grades for yet, because apart from the popular culture, assignment 1, because we've got the grades back for that, and I managed to get a 69, so that was really good. 1 mark off the first, I was like, yes. So, for the True Stories one, I broke it down into 3 short stories, and the angle I went for was exploring my dad's Alzheimer's through the symbolism of a mountain, because the way I was thinking about it is like the idea of how mountains erode, and also the way that mountains can seem so distant, but they're also this huge, massive kind of presence. And I kind of thought like how my dad, even though he was ill, he was still this huge kind of presence in my life, and then this kind of idea that that's just all gone. So I wrote 3 short stories. The first one was called The Mountain, which was meant to be more of like a childlike perspective of when I was younger, like a childlike perspective of visiting him in the care home, and kind of this idea, and I was referring to my dad as like the mountain and all these kind of things, and kind of exploring that side of it, and kind of like trying to wrap my head around understanding. And I connected it to a lot of kind of sea imagery and fairy tale imagery as well, like children do. They kind of explore the world and explain things through creative ways. So I kind of connected the idea of like fairy tale imagery throughout it as well. Like the idea, I kind of made an allusion to Little Red Riding Hood, with like how he would sneak into the kitchen, like the big bad wolf type thing, and like steal the biscuits and sweets. The second story was The Mountain Called Colin, which is more of a, not necessarily, I guess, yeah, it does kind of have a bit of a cynical tone to it. Like that was meant to be more of like my teenage or pre-pubescent, like when I was 11. This like I was 11 when he passed away, but kind of the kind of period where he was moved to a different care home further away from us, and we could only like visit him once a week at the weekend when I went down that way for like a riding lesson as well. So it was kind of like exploring the changes and kind of breaking the mountain imagery surrounding him. So I kind of changed the mountain imagery, and I sort of started to break that down and kind of be like, I have to like face this. I have to face the fact that he isn't a mountain, he is my dad, and kind of process that. And then the last story in the sort of mini collection was Eroded, and Eroded went through a massive change. The first draft of Eroded I absolutely hated. I tried to write about the actual day, which I've attempted to do in the past, and it just doesn't work. The actual day that it happens, the actual day that I found out that my dad had passed away, I can recall it so vividly, and all the details, everything is there. But whenever I try to write it, it doesn't feel authentic. It just sounds forced and crap and stupid, and so I hated the angle I went for. And luckily my lecturer is lovely. He's a really lovely lecturer. He's different to our previous lecturer who we had. She left, and I'm really glad we have this new lecturer because he's lovely. He's so down to earth. He's a really, really lovely guy. And I kind of sent him my first drafts, and he gave me really helpful feedback, and I kind of told him the issues I was having with my the last story, and I just felt like it wasn't strong enough, and I was kind of like struggling, and he gave me some really good advice. And then I remembered my kind of angle that I was trying to achieve, and the mountain imagery came back to me more, and it's kind of like he gave me the idea to explore that as from the perspective of now, like me as a young adult, and sort of thinking about the impact that it's had. And I was able to do it, and I kind of recall different memories throughout my childhood that kind of wraps it all together, and it's kind of like still using the mountain imagery. So I think I make this kind of comparison of the idea that, you know, like coffins weren't meant for mountains and all that sort of stuff. So I did really enjoy the challenge and process of writing the short stories, and I was really proud of them and how they turned out. So fingers crossed they'll do well. And then for the mini reflective essay, I'm just going to pause the video quickly and try and find the question.